The cold wind whipped across the street as our boy stumbled forward toward a gruesome scene where a hulking man shot him through open windows, leaving him hanging in human Swiss cheese like a tragic piece of toast. Instead of vanishing into nothingness, he suddenly emerges from the old days exactly when that revolutionary virtual reality game is launched for the first time. His early game edge was completely shattered because he possessed an uncanny ability to remember everything about every single other person who ever lived. He casually grabbed a stunning blonde beauty and her pink-haired crush while flying through an incredibly tough dungeon, causing everyone there to stare blankly at his amazing power. A determined young man gets ready to strike down the powerful leader with a lethal shot, but before he can fire, something happens and chaos erupts as the action turns into a chaotic fight. A terrified guard roars loudly before anyone else can reach him, turning his loyal boy into a pile of Swiss cheese while they launch an indiscriminate barrage of bullets at the enemy. We dropped the boy right down to the earth and threw him in a pile of money while shouting, "Look at how much you own, and yet you still have no rights to your own life." He felt so incredibly guilty after thinking of his sad parents, but instead of making peace with their loss, he turned it all up and screamed at the cosmos that their tragedy was just too much for him to endure. He felt a jolt of shock as he snapped awake in bed, staring at the ceiling with an air of exhaustion that made him look exactly like someone who had just been pulled into a high-definition dream. Kausu was completely stunned when he saw him frantically checking himself after what looked like a brutal murder. He didn't know exactly what had happened since he couldn't remember who killed the person. He paused mid-step and looked at the familiar room, instantly realizing that time had traveled right back to his own childhood. The TV screen flashes as the ad plays for Conviction's immersive VR game during its final open beta stage. The shiny box of a new movie made him feel like he was playing that exciting movie from the start again. Grabbing a faded old photo from the desk, our boys started to quietly talk about how beautiful their parents looked back then. Back then, folks made big money by trading precious metals like platinum and opening up refineries to make them even better. They chased their huge riches with a hunger that made Chaosu's ruthless clan feel like an invasion of territory. His father lost everything because of a series of disastrous betrayals from trusted family members, which left him with no choice but to kill himself in his own office. While his mother took her final resting place on the day she died from overwhelming grief over that tragedy. The quiet room was silent when the door opened and your boy stood there with his head in his hands. He told me he had never done anything but stare at pictures of girls he hadn't seen or dream about. And today he admitted that even then, he was just a lazy, entitled man who did nothing. He looked at the empty table with 0 options left and chose the extreme route to take Chaos Su down with him. Now, staring at his own hands, he realized the universe had given him a massive reset button and vowed to protect his family this time around. Our boy knows that Conviction isn't just a game, but a revolutionary world where massive corporations like TOS Century Group will eventually build their empires. In his previous life, he was a level 180 master thief. He looked at his phone and immediately confirmed that today is actually July 31st. That's only 7 days after the game officially started. The guys who stay just above level 5 know they have a huge advantage because their encyclopedia tells them exactly how to win and how to avoid sweating it out. He pulled his last money and bought a cool VR headset with ease. He lets out a confident laugh while slipping on his mask, telling everyone that no matter how late he's been, he'll beat it all out of the competition before anyone can catch up. As the screen lights up, he sees his name on the board and picks his own side in a dramatic showdown between 3 factions, ready to fight for his destiny. The Green Empires are too dangerous to choose with a single eye, so instead he picked up a small piece of the northern ice and built his own kingdom there. He locked himself into a perfect strategy based on knowing every secret move, ready to turn any challenge into an easy victory for his rebirth chance. He named his character Nirvana Flame, and then, with a burst of energy, launched him straight into the heart of bustling Carol City. He gasped as he took a deep breath of that overwhelming sea of early fans, finally letting out a triumphant sigh to see his name on the scoreboard again. Opening his status window, he carefully allocates his starting attribute points, smuggling quietly into the plot to avoid repeating his past mistake of ruining his stat distribution and wasting his leveling time. He zoomed past the building, completely ignoring the desperate player who wanted his cheap dagger for 2 copper coins. My kid still remembers how I was taken in by that old scammy back then, but now he has this magic teleporter, so he can fly straight to the town right there and see the real deal for just 1 copper. Instead of staring at the ground, he immediately turns his gaze toward the tall, imposing figure of a level 3 paladin who is currently hunting down a stealth skill book and has just won 6 copper coins. Though everyone around was yelling at him about the insane prices, He knew that being able to move without anyone seeing him was the only true secret in his first run as a thief. The only way he can finally level up is by finding and looting the final hidden treasure inside that terrifying, high-leveled monster's chest. Our brave little boy gently nudges the old warrior's hand with a playful flick of his wrist and lets the heavy tome slip away for a moment before they rush back together. He's promising to show up one day and let him get all those fancy skill books for free without any trouble. The paladin stares down our boy, seeing his level 0 status on the spot before telling him to flee, mocking the bravest newcomer who begs for nothing but loot. The boy didn't care about his troubles. Instead, he started shivering as he listed out the exact coordinates from Marilock Wizards in Linktown. 22, 385, 21, 338, and 23, 329. As the paladin slammed his jaw on the ground, he tore into a wild, confusing scramble to find out how a brand new player actually knew the exact coordinates of that impossible Highlane map. The decision was so tempting that the paladin finally handed the costly spellbook to himself. The boy joyfully takes in his new trade and drops another secret trick, whispering to the paladin how this very monster now has a powerful skill called Night Owl Perception. He asks the hero to send over any extra copies of the paper he finds. The paladin felt such a rush of excitement when he caught an insider tip. So instantly, he activated his teleportation spell and promised to send any bonus loot straight to our boy's mailbox. Meanwhile, with that stealth ability learned, the boy noticed it was going to make him far more difficult to spot, even though higher-level foes were still likely to find him. He jumps into his secret teleportator and vanishes right in front of that scary monster's gate. The woods aren't empty. They're teeming with fierce cats that hunt like madmen, stretching their claws up the trees like a silent army of hunters. So he's so totally unarmed and powerless, even at level 0, that going too close to anyone is guaranteed instant death, until he finds himself comfortable because he knows there are no experience points, armor pieces, or weapons left in his pocket just for a moment of terror. He spotted an untold silver treasure chest buried deep inside a nearby tree, but the scary area made sure no one ever tried to rob it again until the loot finally disappeared into thin air. He grinned as he popped out with a fresh, cheap stealth move that gave him just 2 minutes of total invisibility before getting hit by the eager paws of the cats and sprinting toward the tree. He pushed back through the heavy wood of the trunk, knocking over a few boxes to reach the vaulted silver chest, then pressed his hand against the cold metal to start the key turn. A red loading bar suddenly blocks the view, demanding that he remain motionless as a swarm of furious wildcats sweeps his legs beneath him. After 27 agonizing seconds of holding his breath, the chest finally popped open. The boy's hand flew into the book and pulled out the precious Vital Strike skill as a surprise. The boss unleashes an all-out assault with a massive 150-level hit that shatters enemies at their weakest spots, but it only lasts 3 minutes before the final blow hits. He grabs the shiny new item, and we all cheer as our little boy declares that he's on track to level up today. He beams with pride knowing that the top-tier Vital Strike skill will instantly cut his early-game grind to a crawl. Just as his invisibility cloak finally shatters and lets the wildcats take notice, he screams for help before vanishing again. Instead of running away in fear, he jumps down from the tree and lands hard on the ground among the furious cats. He grins sarcastically at them while letting out a final, violent yawn as his fur died down completely, realizing that dying means losing valuable experience and equipment, but a level 0 player had absolutely nothing to lose. The system instantly declared him dead, revoking 1 standard glove before tossing him back to the nearest town. Reappearing safely in the safe zone, he noted with a smirk that this quick return feature was incredibly handy for saving time. He kicked into action on Phase 2 of his big plan and sprinted through the city, desperately hoping to find some quick money. He has to make the most of his leftover 10 coins by hustling away until they all stack up into a full 20 pack before he can leave. He runs over to Hunter Claws right now to get 2 massive gray rat skulls, and he goes to a local farmer to sign an agreement about killing 50 animals. The shopkeeper sees his client with everything locked away, so he goes straight to the pharmacy to talk to the NPC, who tells him that a helpful young man needs some potion ingredients. Our shy little boy watches as his brilliant eyes light up when they see that collecting 21 rat tails will finally unlock the magic of the first 2 together. No one else has heard this forbidden secret before. He swings at the giant rod in the open level 1 rat zone, letting out huge cracks that send 21 and 32 people flying through the air. He looked shocked as his brain felt a sudden, violent rush of power from the inside out. So fast the very shape of his own head seemed to disappear into the air. The rat slipped on the floor and dropped a pair of tough, white leather pants that gave a warrior a strong shield. He spent an entire hour happily slaying rats while waiting to get some gold at the auction house before finally finishing his mission. He cashed his haul with the 3 NPCs back in the city to earn a massive 400 copper coins and 3 instant health potions. But when he thought the hidden quest actually gave healing items instead, he dropped those leather leggings at the auction house and marched into the weapon shop. The owner ruffled his feathers while bragging he has the best guns out there, only to have his little son jump in and demand a perfect crossbow that hits at 0 cost with the exact rate they need, all under 40 copper. A merchant hands over a mighty crossbow that costs only 35 copper. It starts shooting an impressive 8 rounds per minute, but one of its hidden features instantly shoots up to 15, making it capable of striking targets as far out as 30 yards away. The clumsy little boy rushed home to smash down 4 heavy copper weights on the desk so he could finally buy that expensive bow. And while it was an utterly ridiculous mistake, his worried business owner immediately felt a sinking heart as he realized his precious customer would never be able to make it safely. He stirs his sleep and jumps into the jungle floor where a herd of buffalo is waiting to take him by storm. Because the game has strict rules that limit your progress to 5 levels at a time. No matter how hard you try, you can't even break any of those beasts, let alone find the true champion among them. Despite his future mind, the level 0 boy stands tall and completely sure he can win. He arrived right near the coordinates 567 and 192 and spotted the buffalo leader. He stepped back into his perfect spot, and with a mighty click, the ball flew straight for home. The huge distance between them meant he couldn't even give the monster enough damage, so it just took him barely an inch to deal heavy blow to that dangerous 300 HP tank. He laughed out loud because he knew his 9,000 bolts would finally finish the job. Our brave boy stands perfectly still while the enraged buffalo lunges forward, leaving him safe on a single rock in the wild. He laughs so hard at the lioness he's been stalking since his first job, telling her exactly why the place she just chased was such a terrible mistake in his old days. He kept turning that stubborn buffalo into a soft pink pillow for 3 hours until it couldn't fight back. Then, with all those bolts already spent, he finally delivered the fatal strike. He got a big boost for killing so many levels at once, and suddenly jumped directly to level 2. Looting that huge beast gives you 5 copper coins and a strange-looking bronze horn dagger. He explained that those elusive monsters drop rare gems at such a low chance that they're losing themselves in misery every single time. He's sure that the bronze weapon, with its higher attacks and bonus stats, makes a 5-level item worth at least 3 silver coins, so he decides to find out what it actually is. A sudden alert buzzed in the quiet room, telling the man he just bought something worth only 8 copper. The moment his phone buzzed, his voice cracked into tears as he yells, "Master!" The boy cheered wildly as he reported that he scored 2 stealth books right in front of everyone, while we groaned because his friend lost big last time they traded something huge. We brushed the thought away and told our son, "You're not supposed to be thinking about anything else than forward what a knight sees." The giddy paladin asked for a clue to that impossible rank, and so did our boy, who calmly told him he had already erased the last boss before he even reached the real challenge. Totally bought the adventure. The paladin immediately demanded a guide to the Marilok's wizard's dungeon because he knew everyone was dying inside and out. Smelling like gold, our boy hands over a complete, impossible walkthrough for 2 precious silver coins. The knight immediately cheers and decides to send his captain home to make it all worth paying. As he pulled the heavy steel dagger from his pocket and tossed it onto a table in town, he stepped out of the shadows to see his friend laughing nearby. The NPC shouts for 10 copper coins, but your boy sees the trick. Since appraisal fees charge half of every coin's value, he calculates that a single dagger might actually be worth 12 silver coins, just enough to cover his cost and still leave him richer than the price tag says. The old man stared at the absurdly powerful sword, which held a mere 50% of a normal blade's weight, yet delivered an assault that felt heavier than usual. He grabbed a gleaming new weapon and whispered that this insane power boost would let him fight like an unstoppable boss from the start. Our little hero takes stock of his shiny new tank pack, but when it suddenly feels like all the bullets are about to fall from the sky instead of landing in his pocket, he realizes that while he shoots with such incredible power and speed as a truck, his body is now just holding back dry single-ply toilet paper. Thieves often need special magic or bandage tricks to stay alive when they first fight. His pockets are surprisingly full of money, so he decides to save for survival rather than spend it on new stuff. He wandered into a busy local clinic, snatched a bundle of emergency supplies, and selected 2 essential dive medications just as plans for his next lesson on healing began to take shape. Arriving at Randall Lake, he found himself surrounded by a sea of low-level adventurers who were fierce and constantly chasing away monster spawns. The wilds are a huge toxic chatroom that's about to launch an explosion of violence over stolen goods, so he dives in to dodge the chaos. Suddenly, a flood of news shoots up in his mind while he tries to sneak past a busy fishing town, shouting that a huge group has taken over everything and wants everyone else to leave. He smiles sadly as he watches a boy who has been spending years trying to keep up with arrogant rules from his old life, while secretly preparing for a mission that will make him look foolish in the village. Fortunately, he never got to see that time run out while he was hiding near a dangerous place. The fireball slammed hard into his back and scorched away almost all of his vitality. He turns around suddenly, spotting an elemental wizard in a dim room who whispers loudly to the group, "We're not letting anyone go solo." He laughs nervously, realizing his mistake, and shushes them gently as he pulls him into a warm embrace before they fade away. The sudden bump that knocked him out of the cool air made him pause, and suddenly he knew why he was standing there in such a hurry. Because some mighty mages were absolutely allergic to fighting over close quarters, so he had no choice but to let go and find another way. He didn't want to run away, so instead, he decided to start attacking right away because knowing that the fire blast only takes 2 slow seconds to cast really made him nervous. He immediately charged straight at his rival and started moving forward hard as if trying to scare someone else. The wizard froze in terror as a scurrying thief roared down on him, slamming his fist against the ground while screaming that he couldn't stop the blaze. The boy didn't take the punch. Instead, he grabbed an instant recovery drink mid-step and sliced through it like a knife in a sponge. The mage shrieked and charged at the frightened man, but he was so strong and agile, it seemed like the wizard couldn't even reach his target before he vanished into thin air. The mage gasps in shock as he screams at the mad, foolhardy guild to stop, and then unleashes a final, devastating fireball that turns everyone around. His kid just ignores the scary villain's speech, fires a powerful weapon to hit that big guy down hard enough to wipe out all his life points instantly. The fading digital dust makes it look like the dying mage is rushing to find a low-level solo player who might just need an instant health potion. Our boy noticed with a casual grin that his dropped bronze staff would sell for a very handsome price. Our little boy noticed that the dead mage's guildmates were about to swarm him like angry hornets. He immediately booked it. The triumphant guild spots him near the lake and aggressively chases him. One of them dramatically leaps into the air with a sword attack, but our boy easily dodges the strike, leaving the attacker severely questioning how fast he can move. As we stepped onto the wet rocks near the shore, he lowered the bottle of magic drink that was meant to keep him afloat inside the ocean. The group of guildmates fought over loud screams as a man suddenly crashed through the air and fell down. The wind whipped around the darkening lake as our brave boy flashed a cheeky grin at the storm. Without hesitation or coordination, he sidestepped every chaotic attack while the giant swimmer plunged headfirst into the water. The angry crowd stood frozen at the edge of the lake, thinking they were about to catch the hero with his breathless potion, but they just realized nobody actually drank it. The newly returned mage roared in fury before he could stop himself, screaming that the blinding light of Nirvana flame will finally burn away all his memories forever. The deep ocean makes him feel safe and at ease as he drifts away from the city lights to breathe the cool air of the sea. He remembered that shiny treasure stash from his old life, so he swam down to the lake's deepest spot and caught a fisherman who was trying to escape with a pearl. He gets 3 days of underwater breath before he has to buy new potions. A violent shove from a 3-headed spear knocks the victor off his feet and transforms him into a delicious shish kebabs with a bang. The boy froze mid-splash in the water as his chest pierced deep into a lonely fisherman's nest, leaving him completely alone with no hope of escaping this dangerous encounter. A beautiful turn of fate sees the victorious G rush into the fishing village right above water, causing every other marine creature in that area to panic and flee from his presence. A brave boy sees his enemy destroy a target with perfect timing and then effortlessly climbs out of the water before the explosion hits him hard again. He broke through the surface and landed safely on a quiet secret island in the deep waters. He swung his legs out of the pool and saw her right away, pink hair all at once. As Yaya's heart twitches slightly while spotting his old friend, he thinks it was just some fate meant for them right here before they met again. She stands frozen in the corner of a room while 3 wild beasts rush over to bite her, staring at the empty subscription box that has been canceled forever. She looked down at the boy who had suddenly emerged from the water and began to fear that he might strike back. Instead, he leaped straight into the action and threw a barrage of powerful blows. Yaya ducks to avoid a falling bomb, while the other boy instantly wipes down the whole room with his fists. He smiled at her because she had finally saved his day. He strikes a playful grin, letting the air feel light like nothing when he says, "I'm Nirvana Flame." When her heart rate sped up, she stared at him, wondering why that familiar face had slipped from her mind for so long. She pushed the idea aside and promptly sent a friendly friend request right away, eager to make sure she was truly his savior. He casually asked what pulls her toward that faraway island. She was grinding up water spider sacks to get them ready for her next hunt, and he was staring at a pile of bugs right in front of him, just looking for the perfect silk thread. She's so grateful for those silk threads that decides to dump them right in his room instead of throwing away the whole thing. Before anyone knows what happened, a giant water spider lore dives right into their spot, crashing everything in its path and ruining everyone's celebration. The scary leader boss makes Yaya panic, while our brave boy doesn't let a single tear fall from his eyes. She jumps back as he grabs a massive spider for a quick escape from the jaws of death. She calmly unloaded her strongest holy strikes while his flawless dodge kept that huge bug mostly safe. The two of them smashed through each other until their combined power made the monster's health bar disappear in a flash of light. The battle raged for hours before the final blow struck, leaving Yao Yao standing over a freshly defeated Spider Lord, completely baffled. They can't really think about how buttery smooth their fighting is. After all, it's just a seamless rhythm between two veterans who've been carrying one another for years. She stepped back in wonder at him, finally realizing why someone so skilled would choose to play completely by themselves. He sighs and lets go of his backpack, realizing he can't wait for that legendary dried forest raid anymore. He just wants to grab this chance to take a shot with the team right now. The little boy sprinted into the room and yelled, "I'm here. I need our party's shield warrior stats." The brave soldier proudly reports that they've got two heavy tanks parked right next to them, with 53 defense points and 203 health remaining. Our little boy fired his weapon right away, shouting flat out that it wasn't worth the risk to her. Then he broke down and explained that the tough boss in level 3 dungeon, called the Dry King, is actually just a weak monster with only a 2% chance of dealing damage. When a tank's defense drops below 60%, they get blasted by a digital puddle right away, and healers won't even have time to react. Yayoa stared at the screen like she was reading a novel from the future, clutching her bag tight as if the game had changed its rules by mid-afternoon. Yet she knew that forcing her team to back off would only make things worse. Smiling while your boy casually pulls out that incredibly rare but useless bronze armor piece to let him take over the raid. She smiled nervously as she promised to push back and try her absolute best to convince her group of being too good to be true. Yaya turns her attention to the ghostly spider and calls the drop from its corpse into a tool for her mission. They reveal a pair of shiny bronze silk gloves that are specially made for elite warriors and filled with extra power and healing magic. We gently toss the toy down to her, but she's puzzled by why he's so eager to show off his new match before anyone else sees it. He happily scooped up the rare silk drops and a shiny new thief skill book as he prepared to assassinate the thief who stole them. She ran out in excitement and grabbed a huge pair of gauntlets that looked like they belonged to the whole city. A server-wide notice comes from right at the door warning players that the game will shut down in 3 minutes. They exchanged a warm goodbye and then quietly turned off their computers for good. In his real-world bedroom, our boy was already awake for tomorrow's first morning. When his digital leveling stops, he stumbles out with a body that feels like wet cardboard right now, begging for some real-world training before he can survive the chaos he was fighting in real life. He's taking up free time on the street to jog in the morning, and that was all before a speeding truck crashed right in front of him. You're caught by a bully who punches you right as he slips away before he can hit your face. He stumbled forward, dazed and bleeding a little, then looked up at CC Yao, his dear friend from school. The girl wasn't just scolding him. She was throwing himself off his head while grabbing the emergency kit from her own vehicle, watching him with pure fury and feeling his soul drop into an abyss of sadness as he watched her leave. Years ago, his deep fear of speaking hurt so much that he froze in place. Even worse, because she was linked to him, Chaos's evil team followed and turned her upside down until she collapsed under the weight of despair. She returned home with her bag, and she took care of his cuts while making sure he didn't get too careless again. She looked up sharply, her cheeks glowing bright red as she asked, "Did you really hear me?" He grinned with such charm as he smoothly said, "I don't need to be worried if I have you here to watch over me." She flustered herself and spun away from the man, shouting that she absolutely didn't care about his feelings at all. As she gets back in her car, her mind races, wondering if that confident and flirty Nan is actually the same guy who knows her. Meanwhile, our boy solemnly vows to conquer conviction as fast as possible so he can permanently protect her from Kaisa's madness. The sound of Tang Yao's voice on the phone tore open his romantic resolve instantly. The guy screaming through the speaker demanded that his son get back here right now, telling them they've been hiding this much time already. He smiled to remember how his best friend financially supported him during a low point in their past lives, where he had completely risked his very own neck against the enemy. A guy who turned into a big flirt ended up crossing over too many girls before getting beaten to death in a dark alley. Your little buddy is telling the cosmos he won't turn into a bad fertilizer for anyone else next time. Tango jumps in excitement when he asks if his boy played Conviction at the local gaming lounge called the PK Arena. Our little boy drops the secret that he's a level 2 shadow dancer thief, while his friend loudly insists he's a level 3 archmage. Our boy tells us how the PK Arena lets players join local PvP matches safely so they never lose their real game progress. Tang has become a hotbed for illegal gambling and stealing valuable items while people are playing, proving that even a place as famous as it is can be a breeding ground for trouble. On the way to the bar, right next to him, the cocky guy named Wei Kai marched toward the door and loudly mocked a man named Tang Yao, who was just handing out extra cash. Wei Kai notices I have snaps back, but instead of ignoring him, he stares at my boy and threatens, "Did you really learn your lesson?" Remembering how that scared boy used to be a terrified pushover. So now Wei Kai is visibly confused by our boy's brand new spine. Tang Yao wraps his arm tightly around our boy to hold on as he yells, "Hold on, kid. I'm going to slap that scary VR mask," then yanks him free and jumps on the screen before charging at Wei Kai for $200. He watches the screen while his boy analyzes the game. The sky was filled with gray clouds and the ground was empty, but as the two monsters clashed on that plane, the air grew thick with fear and adrenaline. The boy knows that his best friend will be dead because the berserker's attack hits hard while the mage has no cover, so he challenges him for a fight. The little boy hesitated, thinking back hard that maybe he'd be too busy to care about his chances if he didn't actually want the game to change for him. The anger soars high when the crony slams a big bet on $700 in front of him. Our little boy jumps into a bamboo grove to play his stealth game against a grown-up ranger who is just trying to spin around while screaming for his attention. In this bamboo grove, our little smuggler lets the 10-year-old thief grow up, making it impossible for anyone to find him just like he does now. He lets the ranger go before he strikes down his opponent with a precise blow that removes 40 vital points instantly. As the ranger freaks out by asking where the hell he came from, our boy quietly tells him this was all just over. You shoot an invisible bullet that kills a ranger right here, cutting him off in less than 3 seconds. The loudest rival outside the gaming pod screamed while our boy tried desperately to run under the screen. Inside that digital fortress, the berserker swung his blazing weapon hard enough to snap the boy back before he could dodge. But right now, our boy stands in tight spots where a single hit could wipe him out. So instead of dodging the fiery blow, he deliberately absorbs all 506 points of damage while keeping his health pool intact to stay perfectly safe for the next turn. Furious because a squishy thief completely ignored his skill, the berserker arrogantly launched an attack that fired with a devastating stun effect. The gang outside cheered loudly and immediately knew exactly when their subscription to life would officially fail. But as they charged at point-blank range, our boy dodged the brunt of it without any problem. He grabs his tiny dagger, snatching open the way where the big sword would have been a nightmare to tackle. He swings his sword straight down, cutting deep into the enemy's weak spot just as the attack is about to finish off. The crowd outside stared at the screen with pure, absolute silence, utterly baffled by how a low-level thief had effortlessly wiped away a high-level berserker. Kai takes a deep breath and steps out of the pod, still wearing that familiar glowing blue skin that makes him look so weirdly bright and awake. My best friend was so thrilled as he tackled us, shouting aloud, funny complaint about our son's stupid fussing over everything. Our little boy decides to act cool and brush the dirt from Shiny Toy just because when he hears that our friend wants to learn how to be an online wizard, they agree to do exactly what they say. They don't wait for a chance before starting. Wei Kai's whole crew marches right on the scene first, making it look like their friends are backing away from that huge gamble when in fact they're about to smash through the roof with full force. Wei Kai keeps the promise by handing over the money and inviting everyone back for a drink on the spot. Walking away, a confused Lucky wonders why his boss suddenly acts so polite toward the local punching bag. Showing rare character growth, W. Kai explains that the kid has clearly become a terrifying threat, and it is far better to stay on their good side before he inevitably jumps to the top of the food chain. The big one made our boy feel like a king, so he dragged his best friend home for an unforgettable feast and spent every evening arguing over how to beat the hardest opponents in the game. Later that evening, our son hit the gym while feeling his core muscles grow stronger all along, and he started to appreciate how fresh his youth looked compared to when he was younger. His real-world energy finally runs out, so he jumps back in to complete his vow of raiding the dried forest. In the bustling city, he instantly accepts a friend request and receives a mail package from Flaming Stone the Paladin. The Kai deposits a shiny silver coin into his storage, excited to tell everyone that the Murloc Wizard Guide is doing perfectly. He begged for more insider knowledge before turning to ask for a walkthrough of the ogre's lair. Our boy calculates quickly and decides to hold off on selling these incredible dungeon guides right now. He just wants to look like he's getting suspiciously omniscient. He finally decides to let his paladin team wipe out a few more times so he can actually finish ripping off their expensive skin later. First, on his list of immediate tasks, he goes straight to the NPC Dr. Blevins and hands her over 300 silk threads as soon as she's ready. The doctor looked down at the huge room and gave his patient an award of 30 nice silk squares before he even said a word about teaching them how to do bandages properly. Our boy was so excited when he realized that taking 1 silver could instantly heal his entire body for 10 seconds. It's the perfect fix for all of his injuries. Checking his quest log, he suddenly realized that turning the job had barely pushed him past the 20% finish line, proving instead that this was a huge and long mission ahead. He needed that extra bit of silk, but his little boy was quick to agree to lend him his hand. Together, they carefully set aside the task and headed straight for the hidden forest where they could find the perfect Featherfall gem before it was too late. Right on the spot, Ye Yao demanded that she hurry up to catch him meeting her group. He heads toward the teleportation spot near the town square, bumping into his best friend who's already on their way to help them clear the dungeon as planned. Yao Yao's team arrived at the base, where she spotted the most gorgeous blonde girl in the entire world, named Yulon. His best friend started drooling wildly as he frantically questioned why his boy had surrounded himself with such ultimate tier beauties. Yao Yao stares hard at the boy and warns him, "Don't show your face. You'll embarrass her because you're too skilled." The blonde girl gently held his hand as it hummed with strength, declaring the man she was training was a true veteran and ready for anything. But here's the hard truth. He's the boss who sets the rules so nobody can argue or ignore. A smug thief in the group laughed loudly, claiming instantly that he had no choice but to ask why anyone would let a completely unfamiliar person steer his reckless team directly into an untouchable disaster. The smug thief aggressively asks the blonde beauty if she will take a side. The girl rushes over to her little brother, tears streaming down her face as she takes off his coat in front of the thief so he can finally fix it without getting caught. She says, "I'm sorry for being late," promising that no one will ever see us again because everyone has been invited into our secret party together now. Our boy, who is a pragmatist with a PhD in betrayal, lays down his absolute terms by demanding total obedience from anyone caught sabotaging the run. He officially creates the party and the entire squad, including that grumpy thief he hires, while everyone clicks along happily. The blonde beauty instantly became a shadow of authority in the room, whispering that every single one of those instructions was absolute truth, while simultaneously scoldingly threatening everyone who dared to cause any disturbance. His little boy walks confidently into the crowd, cheering everyone into a loud agreement that together they can finally get rid of those scary, dry trees. He promised to fix his mistake by giving the team 10 shiny silver coins instead of losing everything. The giant payout made everyone jump for air, but the pink-haired girl whispered her heart from her lips to the blonde beauty, realizing that her own quiet confidence could finally save them all. We stopped talking about the noise and let our boy grab a full stats check to clear up the mess before he went back into the game. A solid shield warrior stands ready to take hits, displaying an impressive 61 defense and 230 health that perfectly fits his core tank role. The young boy began ordering the tank to grab potions while Dumpling's second shield warrior listed his defense as 51. After the mage muttered about his stats, they all ordered to get stronger. A loud groan erupted as the entire group slammed their hands together in protest over the potion's high price, a fact so costly it made even a tidy clean fail to pay for the effort. The smug thief snarkily declared, anyone could clear the dungeon with that much of those pricey potions. His perfect buddy burst into action right when the thief was about to steal away all that money, laughing at how easily he could get rid of the little guy with a simple swap. The pink-haired girl softly asked her boy whether he truly needed all this expensive spending just to finish the dungeon, and his boy replied confidently, while secretly wondering why he was so busy saving up for nothing at all. The blonde girl turned around and told everyone to grab all those potions before she left. The whole group was packed and ready for the dungeon when our little boy stepped forward with a loud shout. "Wait, we're activating the instance." He peered closely at the ancient carving on the rock to see the poetic warnings that warned sleeping tree spirits and dark elves would bring trouble in the woods. The screen flashed with a warn notification that said, "Select difficulty from easy through master," and he laughed so hard he nearly broke his arm by clicking on expert mode, which made everyone else giggle too. The party was sucked right into the dry forest, where a giant notification from the game told them they could only handle this hard level. An absolute wave of panic crashes over the girl, her sweat soaking through her clothes and driving her spirit away from reality in pursuit of an unforgettable holiday. The thief lunges at the boy with an angry grin as he yells, "You dragged us here just so we could lose our XP." Unbothered by it, I tell them this is a total escape route. Just give them one last chance and they'll leave. A pink-haired girl rushes forward, her voice cracking with rage as she yells to a thief sitting in a chair, "You are the one who invited my kid here. Stop looking for him." A thief instantly drops his guard and verbally pleads with her while secretly planting a seed of defiance inside her heart for someone else. Our boy casually explained that the difficulty isn't worth worrying about. His boss only needs 300% more health, but the stats and mechanics are just barely above average, so he waved goodbye without actually caring. The beautiful blonde girl stares at the dark room and wonders why the world has stopped moving because she just missed one tiny piece of armor and lost even a tenth of her strength, knowing that in these dangerous dungeons, such a small mistake could send you flying into the air instantly. The pink-haired girl nervously asks if he's really sure of this, but he just says she can relax. The smug thief crosses his arms while plotting to see our boy's grand command smash into the ground. A wild, angry vine sprouts out of the ground and grabs hold of everything around it. Our little boy shouted sharply as we all turned to watch him, telling the team he had jumped in front of the Dryad's fire zone and said, "Everyone gets off." Even though the whole party played it cool and didn't let the ambush get close, that sneaky thief got everything and laughed it off. Flora, who was so fierce, slammed a heavy arm around his neck and pulled him into a tight hug, tucking him close against her warm body before dropping him into the air and letting him scream as she held him hostage. The smug thief hangs low as a sad piñata, yelling desperately for his life while climbing the vines. Oh my god! Our boy flips back in his chair and screams at the tanks to smash through the enemy's left wing before the paladins can build up their shield walls, while the majors charge forward like fireballs and blast the main forces into pieces with every shot they get. The squad throws away the angry shrubbery and the smug thief instantly, leaving everything clean and safe behind. The thief throws a wild tantrum when he sees his boy trying to bluff himself into thinking an ambush has been spotted before the real danger arrives, accusing him of withholding important warnings because he thinks no one would dare make tactical decisions calmly without waiting for it to become premeditated. My boy shut off his cries instantly and pointed everyone toward the ambush right in sync. Even the big armored warriors dodged the strike so easily, proving how clumsy a pure thief must have been when he ran through here. The coolest kid in town jumped in right away to roast everyone, screaming that the guy's talent is actually just pure garbage and promising someone from nowhere on the street could crush it all down. As the blonde beauty finally walks into the room, she speaks firmly so the smug thief can stop ruining her image, leaving him heartbroken because he now thinks his own captain is on her side. Deciding that the boys have heard enough crying, we announced to each other there were plenty of dark elf traps ahead. Even though that guy didn't follow along with the lesson, our boys decide to step up and teach everyone what they've learned. We sprinted out from behind a wall and saw our boy darting through the deadly danger zone, using his incredible agility to disarm every trap before he could be caught by anyone else in the group. The blonde beauty was completely captivated by how effortlessly he worked. The smug thief laughs and shouts about how hard he thinks it is to clear traps. He sprinted right ahead, jumped up on the trigger he had just pulled, and almost threw himself out of his own life. The boy jumped right over the final microphone, knocking down the invisible trap to let the guy escape as a tiny cloud of digital joy. He shook his head and admitted that the thief really didn't know how to play this game at all. He laughed in a smug way, telling his terrified son he had deliberately put himself in danger because he knew the kid had stepped right before that doorframe, proving exactly why it was so wrong for him to be there at all. The most amazing thing happened when our best friend lost his mind at the audacity of calling him an ungrateful brat and telling us he'd be dead if we hadn't stepped in before. Our boy calmly explains why simply walking past a trap doesn't magically disarm it for those who are blindfolded, officially diagnosing him as totally unfit to play the shadow dancer class that completely shatters the smug thief's fragile ego. He violently draws his dagger, curses loudly, and aggressively challenges our boy to a duel. Without even breaking a sweat, our boy effortlessly caught the incoming blade between his bare fingers as he casually suggested the guy go fetch a small army of backup just to fight him off. The blonde beauty scolded her guildmate rudely, reminding him that stepping on a trap was entirely his fault and demanding he stop throwing a temper tantrum at the guy carrying them. The pink-haired girl aggressively agreed, expressing sheer disappointment that he was actively trying to stab the person who just saved him twice. He's running out of room in his mind and screaming, My friends are beating me up. Let's get rid of them so I can save this stranger. The rest of the party shouts over and over to tell him to step back, while everyone else agrees that his brother made no mistakes at all. Realizing he has 0 supporters left, this smug thief laughs bitterly, sarcastically, declaring he wants to see how this so-called expert carries them, and promptly rage quits the party, vanishing from the dungeon. The pink-haired girl looks thoroughly embarrassed and sincerely apologizes to our boy for dragging him into such a toxic mess. Our boy smoothly brushes it off, noting that shedding dead weight actually makes the run significantly easier, though he privately vows to build his own guild in the future to avoid babysitting entitled randos. The blonde girl quickly pulls the group back to the center, telling them all she'll talk about the drama again after finishing off the raid. Half an hour later, the party stumbled upon a giant, unmovable roadblock that stopped them all. Our brave boy, who had slipped away in the shadows, arrived with a terrible twist of fate. Exactly 18 angry dryads stood right in front of him, blocking every single inch of his path and turning the whole forest into an endless wall of red hair as he panicked. His quiet agreement helps him confirm that he isn't actually as suicidal as some people think they are. Her nervous whisper causes her son to tense up as he pulls back his trusted little crossbow. He glares with an unshakable grin as he mentally scans the crowd for that perfect one-target mob pull he's been waiting for all week. Hey everyone, you know how stories keep getting better? When that moment of quick pause hits, let me have you drop a like and subscribe so we can finally catch up on the real story. This keeps us all one step ahead. A brave boy grabs his crossbow and shoots 3 lightning bolts at a wall of giant, scary creatures named dryads. His best friend screams like he wants to leave his pack alone because they're going on a trip forever. He didn't flinch when a digital heart attack rang out behind him. Instead, his boy made a quiet bark of order while the main tank stood perfectly still at the right spot to let the bullets fly through the air with perfect precision. The blonde beauty's jaw practically hit the floor as she realized what had just happened. She was stunned by how much she loved his god-tier hand crossbows, which allowed him to snap back at 3 completely separate mobs with perfect accuracy while keeping everyone safe. The server actually locked onto its top-ranked elite thieves, and they were immediately stunned by such a blatant idea. Pulling off a stunt with a survival rate that nearly doubled their own would have been insane. The pink-haired girl stared in awe as she realized her new leader was truly untouchable. He saw his brother snap a group of people's attention at once. The commander carefully locks down a single dryad with extreme caution, treating it as a final battle zone before pulling everyone else in a fire against the scattered enemies nearby. His best friend laughed so hard they nearly fell over because she thought his crazy plan was actually going to work perfectly. The blonde girl stood tall and announced she was safe, then bolted down to help her squad take cover near the main tank. The gods didn't just destroy everything. They completely wiped out the last hope of life for all those who stood before them. Oh no, the system instantly rewarded them with a pair of bronze-grade mage gloves, but they didn't even know what that was. It was a moment where the whole squad exploded into pure adrenaline and shock at seeing their usual friends drop the expensive equipment for a tough grind. The pink-haired girl prided herself on being able to question his incredible move, while our boy flashed a smug grin, reminding her he'd made a promise about the carry. He will do exactly that for 20 more minutes, while our boy pulls perfectly flawlessly until the whole zone is done clearing up. The exhausted squad stared at that towering pile of premium loot and suddenly understood why they felt so useless. There was nothing like that massive digital ATM to help them play their way through it. As he took a deep breath, the boy casually remarked that the little haul was utterly insignificant compared to those amazing treasures hidden far deeper in the dungeon. The squad packed up after a brief break and began their walk again. The blonde beauty looked puzzled as she pointed to show them we're going down a familiar, uninteresting road rather than following the usual main path east. He told the girl that if she followed him exactly like he led her on, she would never regret it. A soft flute melody, played softly in the distance, wakes up the quiet forest. I saw my friend flash that wicked grin at me and tell him they spotted the elusive dry shepherd in the dark dungeon. It was a perfectly peaceful forest where humans lived in total peace, but suddenly chaos erupted when dark elves walked through, twisting the wood into something more dangerous than before. The local council finally decided to bring in some brave friends to take a trip through the wilds, and they were more than happy to get along with it, because they thought they could handle anything that came along. As he walked toward the nameless old shepherd NPC, the old man instantly warned the group to flee, whispering ominously that the dryads would unleash terrifying and murderous attacks whenever night fell. We suddenly burst into a loud party where everyone laughs loudly and acts like we're the main characters for this time. The boy looks straight ahead as if he is commanding the crowd, clearly holding his full hidden title and smiling so hard it hurts to hear him speak. The old man ran in screaming about wretched dark elves, while the blonde beauty stared at him like an angry customer before whispering angrily to the pink-haired girl, asking for proof of a mysterious expert. She just shrugged, looking completely puzzled. Even if your best friend has a brilliant mind that's already short-circuiting, you can't possibly beat that Dry King expert unless something completely weird happens to unlock that hidden secret quest. He kept rolling the story so smoothly that the elf didn't even notice the trick was up until he saw them really spot in the dark. Thrilled to finally get competent help, the NPC handed out 3 bags of specialized revealing dust, which unleash powerful items that expose any hidden creatures in a 30-yard radius right away. An elderly man is desperate to catch thieves, get rid of his flute, and use his strength to smash the Dryad King. Our brave boy confidently leads his squad through the wild caves, casually swinging from a hanging vine just to snag that precious loot while his blonde ally nervously checks if he really understands where the hidden elves live. Your boy just smiles and says, "Oh no, we're about to trap the dark elves like helpless turtles in a jar." The pink-haired girl looked around at the empty forest and asked, "How did you know where we are?" Smirking, our boy explained that enemies had been broadcasting their positions from the start, while she frantically searched in sheer confusion. Our boy then calmly announced they had already arrived, just as the dark elves silently materialized behind her squad. Our boy yelled with a grin, revealing that our enemies were 2 invisible demons trying to steal their way into our home by shooting at us like fireworks. He added, "Don't let them touch us before the sun sets, because if we didn't blast them away right now, they could never be caught again." The sneaky elves threw a cloud of revealing dust into the air and were immediately spotted by everyone. The panic party rushes out with nothing to grab, while the rest of the group sidesteps every path and saves everyone from being caught in a trap. The best friend jumped up and roasted the elf on the plate, bringing out a loud roar from the flames. The blonde beauty grabs her squad for a quick run and shouts, "Secure that dry shepherd's flute," while our boy chases after anyone who might try to steal anyway. One desperate elf swings hard at his boy's head, but he catches the blow midair and strikes him down for a devastating power move that sends him flying straight back into the game. Our brave boy dives into the digital graveyards with great care, easily pulling off the dangerous flute from its hidden nest. He thinks hard about what that weird quest item can do for monsters when they're already dead, let alone at their original level 0. All of them take full damage because it just gives him a massive 300 boost to health points, and no matter how high or low the dungeon is, this cursed flute stays locked forever. As the man carefully glances at his equipment, an unexpected visitor appears and stumbles upon a strange note tucked inside the body. The girl stared blankly at that line of nonsense and immediately decided it was a poem from the legendary poet Elvin, so she couldn't read a single word anyway. Our boy effortlessly cracked down on the lore to explain that a dark elf was gathering intel to strike the D tribe at Hilton Forest, following orders to deliver this critical warning to Warlord Barnes before the battle began. A guy casually drops the news that their quest will pay off with massive gold right before the final boss, causing everyone to jump up and down in excitement for the big prize. Our boy completely ignores the celebrations and tosses the overpowered flute straight to the main tank. Gripping it tightly, the tank practically vibrates with excitement and boldly declares that its massive health boost makes him fearless against the boss. As our squad marches forward, the best friend watches us in pure awe, noting how ridiculously fast our buddy flipped a toxic party into a loyal bot, shredding through the rest of the dries like they were made for it. The loophole drops a shiny gold shield that gives your hero a big boost to their armor. The blonde beauty's eyes spark like dollar signs as she admits, "I've never actually made a shield with that many ridiculous numbers." Knowing this small armor could save her entire team in tougher dungeons without anyone helping, she nervously asks if he can buy it off him. He casually brushes away her hand and explains he's only here for stealing items from the final boss because he's just going to sell whatever she needs anyway. She looked so sorry for stealing the ride with her eyes wide and pouting until she realized he might be dead. A loud crash rumbled through the trees before anyone could catch their breath as a huge storm shook up everything in that forest. Moments later, our boy's eyes widened as he felt the sudden urge to command a few of us, making sure everyone stayed ready and prepared for whatever came next. A terrifyingly loud scream shakes the air as the fourth-born Lord Drag King yells frantically at humans being stoned near him, then unleashes a mighty blast of force to crush them all together. The little guy showed off his super speed by dodging every deadly attack so effortlessly that he was unstoppable. The blonde beauty stared blankly at the screen while the squishy level 2 thief laughed off with a casual smile, totally baffled by how the high-level boss was being played for laughs. We wasted no time as our boy ordered a fierce battle formation. He snapped his fingers to lock down the boss in melee range, and then he shouted, "Casters, stay exactly 3 yards back." As the tank grinds down the first hit, he nervously realizes that the boss's defense is completely unbreakable. Our brave boy felt totally calm and instantly commanded his squad to shoot, working together so perfectly that the whole group launched a synchronized attack against the giant tree beast. The squad starts with a huge explosion before unleashing a barrage of hard hits that shave away every bit of damage from the boss in one go. My boy barked loudly at the massive tank so it could blow the dried shepherd's flute. Just then, the big machine hit the right notes, and its boss power dropped off by an unbelievable 50%. He took a deep breath, and suddenly he was looking at a massive forest of green giants instead of glowing blue fires, because the trees wouldn't let him use any spells that hurt them so badly. The most cherished friend actually leaps wildly and releases a shower of magical fireballs at once. When the furious boss pulls a trap spell and stuns the tank, our boy runs to call for help from his squad's priest. After obeying her boss's precise orders, she effortlessly vanished from behind the trap. I felt absolutely thrilled because I was really enjoying being part of this wonderful machine. The team moved like smoke so quickly that the boss was only half damaged before they could even finish his first blow. The droid king refused to become digital firewood and threw a wild, loud tantrum before slamming into a wall of pure terror, instantly turning into an unstoppable berserk monster. A violent shockwave slammed the whole team backward, leaving the blonde beauty staring in shock at her own reality, knowing the boss had completely enraged him last second. Our boy screams at the main tank to instantly lock into a defensive stance before the tank bites down on him, eating away at his life until it's all gone, and he panics as if you're holding back a runaway freight train. Just as his soul was about to depart and leave his body for an all-time vacation, a wave of crucial healing from the priest hit him hard, barely enough to push back that massive monster, while the tank popped the exact instant he bought the health potion aggressively earlier in the city. The moment we all knew something was about to change, our boy saw the boss really dying and yelled, "No more wait." The boss is practically out of breath. The blonde girl rips free and hits with such power that she shatters the crystal doors wide open before her son can even breathe. The last heavy punch slammed into the mighty tree, sending it tumbling down like a giant crashing boulder onto the earth. The whole party stood frozen in a wave of pure, uncontrolled, breathless shock. The pink-haired girl was so excited she was shaking up and down while trying to figure out what the whole team really accomplished. The priest slammed his fist on the wall and screamed, "Look at us! That boy's god is a real fertilizer," while the whole team rode their bikes through that incredibly hard, expert-level boss fight with total relief. A golden beam of light sweeps down across the clearing like a sudden shower, and everyone in the squad laughs with delight as they level up together. A weary boy dives into a sea of gold and jewels to find his dream gem, the featherfall. He grabbed the mysterious gold treasure while hiding behind the glass, checking out how heavy it felt, so much like his own 16-point defense and 7 bonus strength. But when he activated its special magic, everything instantly vanished into thin air, leaving him with 0 gravity for exactly 3 minutes before slowly climbing back to normal weight. The players are staring blankly at the screen, their eyes wide with pure despair as it reveals another Windows Update error on 99%. They can't figure out why their team isn't ready for a game they're supposed to play right now. The fallen ranger reclines in his chair, staring intensely at the screen, trying to make sense of a sudden and terrifying loss of control over his own life. The timid Nan didn't even realize he got a reel back before he was completely unable to comprehend what happened next. Meanwhile, our little boy stepped out of his pod, watching his brain race through the math while wondering if killing a level 2 newbie was really cyberbullying until he asked his best friend what everyone else's matches have been up to. The friend grumbles about losing 2 rounds and sinking deep into the dungeon. He screams angrily at the local bully leader, saying he has just acquired a berserk class that completely destroyed his magic spells. His little boy immediately did a quick check on the guy, explaining that the aura just shaved off a small amount of damage. In fact, the real way to destroy a berserker is simply casting spells at the right moment. Wei Kai smiled at the friend because he knew this friend had to be an idiot, so they agreed to walk away together instead of fighting over who was right. Our boy stared blankly at his friend, asking desperately about what new skill had appeared overnight in that high-stakes game. Instead of answering, he simply flashed a dazzling display of money to prove he'd finally mastered it all. Oh no! The celebration turned into a rude interruption as the guy who humiliated us finally came to ruin it. The lucky punches us hard because he was furious after we lost our money to him. The kid caught the man's hand right as they were about to drop him and threw him down gently without flinching at all. He smiled as he thanked the hard physical effort that had helped him fight those scary men back home. The boy in Tengoso's mouth feels like he fell off a cliff because his favorite character suddenly became a super powerful fighter. As the rest of the gang suddenly snaps into action, they realize in a flash that the local coward has officially gone home. W. Kai stepped forward as he saw his own hand getting dirty with a mop while his goons were still yelling about the mess on the floor. Our kid caught his boss cheating on him with an excuse about being too weak for a warm-up and immediately turned the situation around by laughing it off as if he were just being a good old friend. W. Kai's smirk falters as he reaches out for his son. Instead of exchanging a formal handshake, he just says, "We're playing hard," because the game stakes are so high that anything less feels like a losing move. Tang Gao immediately drops the cash and throws up 3 fingers to freeze a 3,000 pot deal, screaming his way out of panic about how Wei Kai is a level 5 berserker while our boy is only a squishy level 2 thief. Wei Kai gasps in disbelief while casually confirming that a level 2 might actually do it, though his partner, Tang Yao, insists the man simply doesn't have enough money to make it happen. Tang Yao sees our boy so incredibly broke that he almost tells himself he owes nothing. Instead, he immediately agrees to put up the whole table on the spot. 2 teams rush in with their logs and immediately fill up the arena like a full stadium. Tang Yao stood outside with trembling hands, clutching his chest as he told himself the dangerous open plain map was a fatal mistake for anyone who truly wanted to be careful. In the digital arena, Wake refuses to change the map because his beloved son ignored his offer to help fix the situation, declaring that the grassy plains are enough on their own. He pops out of the darkness and disappears right into Kai's sight. Wei Kai spins wildly in a blur of noise while completely forgetting the one thing he was trying to hit. The little boy carefully watches the wind in his eyes, knowing that a gentle rustle of tall grass will instantly show him exactly where to go next. He looked down and smiled gently, letting the gentle breeze act like a soft, invisible blanket that made him blend in perfectly. He swung wildly through the open air, utterly bewildered by how easily tall grass hides a thief right behind his back. Wai tries to explain that we're going fast like crickets, but it turns out the kid is just waiting to leap straight into his arms. We stood in the dark waiting for the perfect gust of wind to hide our own footsteps, as our boy hit the back of Wei Kai's head with a powerful blow that dealt 35 damage. Wei Kai actually leaped out of his digital skin in a panic about the kid teleporting right behind him. The berserker screamed in panic as he leaped back, launching himself into a huge whirlwind of fire that slammed straight toward him. A whirlwind blade snatched a boy's hand away, leaving him dizzy with 9 drops of blood on his cheek before he even realized what was happening. The boy immediately begins calculating that firing a quick, powerful blow with such force will trigger a 1-second delay before the hit registers, causing him to feel like he's stepping out of time before winning the fight. The cool air outside the pods makes the bullies feel like they're trying to sleep in a sauna while their eyes race forward. They can't even understand why their boy's timing, which feels so perfectly calculated, is actually so much more dangerous than anything anyone else could do. The world goes silent while Tanga watches his hero's dagger connect with pure hype, sending out a devastating 96 critical hit. He sits haggard on the floor, clutching a dying 34, while the man beside him, who's still alive and screaming for his son, launches a desperate fireball at the corpse in an act of trying to keep their pride together. You made it to the very last second. If you love watching that summary, be sure to give us a thumbs up and share one of those funny clips with me so I can catch your eye. Bye-bye, folks. As the golden sun begins to flash, our little boy finally makes it all the way up to level 3. The system announced their expert level 4 is clear and gave them a base party honor. The best friend was vibrating with energy as he pointed out how the reward had suddenly jumped from an ordinary number to a massive 12-pointed star, leaving everyone stunned and ready for more. A boy is showing his buddy a secret stash and inviting her to help him divide what's left in the room. The blonde beauty at Carol City laughs and tears up her heart, realizing she can't even say thanks because there's nothing left to say about his amazing job. As they jump off the plane and land in a city called Carol City, everyone feels like they are flying through the stars. He lurked through the darkness as if he had been kicked out of his own town long ago. His jaw would almost touch the ground as he watched the whole team suddenly leap out of reach. He bit his nails so hard that grinding them down turned their bite into a burning dental emergency. And in doing so, he burned the very name of our little boy into his mind, screaming that this insult would never come back. The crew steps into the Carol City barracks and spots a mysterious figure named Warlord Cavaro standing right in front of them. Arboe casually captured 2 dark elves deep in a dry forest before securing valuable intel on the Hilton Fortress. Kavoro looks like he just won the lottery, praising their service and instantly coughing up the rewards as the system showers them with double reputation points and over 300,000 experience. Kavoro also personally teaches our boy combat techniques, granting him 2 permanent strength points, 2 silver coins, and the stun skill. Our boy internally does backflips over scoring free stats and a skill book from this insanely profitable hidden quest. When your quest money finally hits, your little boy shouts that it's time for action. Then when a pink-haired girl asks what you're doing, he says he's just grinding mobs and secretly planning to use his Featherfall gem to cheese an elite monster named the Lion King. Oh right, the squad finally splits into their own little corner of the arena, leaving the absolute last one standing on their feet. The best friend jumps down to hug our boy's leg, acting as a lifeline while completely brainwashed by an expert dungeon run. He begs to be taught how to play an arcade mage, but the physical contact makes him deeply disturbed and awkwardly agrees, noting they must upgrade his trash gear first. Acting like a sugar daddy at the local blacksmith, our boy outfits his friend with bronze armor and straw sandals for a solid stat boost. He stepped out his car and shouted, "We're heading straight to the top of Rain Hill." Our little explorer arrives at the dark cave and tells his buddy about how the bats carry scary fangs, while setting a hard rule on time for his farm work. Overwhelmed by fear, he jumps in a charge and yells a fire spell to catch his first monster before leaving. Our boy refuses to sit still, so he decides to join the slaughterhouse and efficiently slices off the mobs while scooping out their fangs. A half hour later, we saw our son checking his phone screen and hearing an urgent distress call as he tried to escape Red Name D players who were being kicked out of the game because they had stolen equipment while trying to kill people. The friends suspected they were working with the Radiant Holy Flame Guild, so their leader admitted that the messy cave layout forced them to chase the enemies around, which led him to accidentally stumble into a level 3 elite boss and get snatched away from his allies before he could summon backup. He jumped up and down as he told his friend to keep kiting. So now the boy was right where he should be. He perched atop the rock and watched as 3 angry campers waited at the door, ready to show their rage. The ringleader, an 11-level elemental mage, snaps at his tiny assistant and tells them to drop their trash while pretending they are still friends. Surprised by his 3 friends, he smiles as they see dead men drop everything. He watches the mage in a flaming hat and quickly steps into stealth mode, knowing no one brave enough to come near a red glow can be underestimated. As he slowly makes his way forward, a sudden spark of fear lights up in the mage's eyes. As the boss launched himself back with a smirk and ignited his flames to catch someone who had never been seen before, they vanished into thin air. He blasts away our boy's cover while the lackey screams for the thief to die. Realizing this mage is a seasoned pro, we know he can't let the caster create distance. He pops a speed scroll and charges hard into the inferno, boosting his movement by 20%. Suddenly, a pop-up appeared right in front of you, telling your little friend he's been cornered by someone else and giving them 3 nice seconds to stop the fight. The boy didn't hesitate. He charged directly toward that blazing ring of fire, refusing to let time slip by even a fraction. He glares down at the madman charging straight for the fire, forcing him into tight combat, while his mind races with questions about why anyone would sprint like that. The fight between him and the boss was so close that the gap between them vanished as the boy unleashed a powerful attack, slicing through the enemy's defenses and crushing their health meter. A sudden panic erupts among the lazy crew. One of the grunts tried to ambush our boy by slicing him with a fireball while shouting that the thief had popped up an extra speed scroll just in time. Meanwhile, the second lackey, dressed as a priest, panted wildly and threw his holy light spell like he was running toward hell while cursing the thief below him. Oh my god, our boy isn't just dodging those attacks. He's trying to make them vanish before they even hit him, and his brain is doing all that spinning so fast it looks like it could crush the room with its own energy. He carefully checks his watch and sees that the boss's scorching flame burst spell takes only half a second to burn out, meaning there is plenty of time for him to dodge it before the flames catch him. The rain keeps hammering down hard as he relentlessly pushes himself closer and closer, his footsteps echoing wildly against the storm. The boss was totally stunned and suddenly crumbled into pieces while screaming wildly at his useless squad to keep moving, begging them to save him as he plummeted toward destruction. The warrior lackey, who had been helplessly apologizing to Boss Yongkong because his thief speed is completely impossible to catch, charges into the fray as our boy skillfully dodges clumsy attacks and delivers a brutal vital strike that permanently cancels the flame mage's subscription. The boss then smashes instantly, and the system notification chimes in, happily rewarding us with a shiny new prestige point for legally executing that red name player, which unlocks better quests and sweet city discounts. The warrior screamed as his leader fell like a sack of potatoes, shouting that the boss had exploded full of loot before ordering his team to grab it right away. So we see our boy standing right beside the fresh body, eagerly grabbing the new gear and cheerfully shouting that this flamethrower set officially goes his name. He screamed with rage as he tried to blast his enemy back, yet the boy slipped away and only managed to take a rough kick that left him shaken for 1 point. He grabbed a quick dodge and sprinted through the crowd, running after the coward who shouted, "Don't let me go." They were so scared of how he would ever talk about this big failure when the boss came back alive. They were running wild and throwing monsters at him, but our little guy calmly slapped on a bandage while sprinting away, regenerating fast. He said confidently that his speed was just too high for them to even keep up with. The old priest stood in absolute ruin of hope, his face twisted into a look of pure despair as he watched a ghostly figure desperately try to wrap themselves up around him while they were still fleeing. The boy's face lights up with a wicked grin as he feels the energy of a fresh day settle deep within him. Suddenly, he slammed on the brakes while turning back around to lock eyes with the warrior, who was casually telling him it was his moment to die. He swung wildly toward the enemy, as if the sky itself wanted him to be captured by this thunderous blow. Our brave boy jumped out of nowhere on top of that sharp blade, landing with a mighty thrust and delivering a devastating blow for 55 points of damage before he was knocked down just to get another one. He pulls back the trigger with a confident smirk, aiming for a perfect spot, then fires a bullet that cracks through the target like a precision strike. He stares blankly at a 50% chance that his life will end before he even reaches the boss's house, and immediately understands why the rest of it matters so little to him. Panicking that he might lose his own gear, he instantly abandoned the fight and sprinted toward the nearest exit to try and escape. Our boy effortlessly steps in to close the gap, calmly telling anyone nearby they can't get away with fleeing first, before rushing into action to snatch their dropped gear off a moving vehicle. Finally, our little boy began turning his soulless gaze toward the last of the survivors and then casually flashed a wicked grin to the light mage before proceeding to tell him to move. He looked like his soul had permanently left his body on a vacation, and internally screaming at the healer who was squishy, he posed for a one-on-one fight against a high-level assassin. The priest stared at his son with wide eyes as he saw the boy grin and think, "Hey, you're looking like an absolute sleep paralysis demon." The boy replied, "Well, I guess we got a pretty thrilled guy about blasting him with holy light just a minute ago." His sinister grin stretches tight as he cracks his knuckles, ready to crush the last scrap of trash away. Our boy runs up to inspect the freshly looted flame chaser set. A circuit boosting fire damage, strength gloves, fire boost greaves, defensive armor, and agility boots, hoping Tangao will use it for magic. He nods in satisfaction at seeing that bronze tier gear is perfect for his best friend, who spams fire spells. The leftover junk gear will simply be pawned to make a lot of cash. Opening his system window, he demands the coordinates for his friend's location. Tangao admits he is currently cowering deep within a dark cave, surrounded by level 5 mobs. Our boy immediately transfers the shiny new equipment and promises to head over right away. Seeing the massive stat boosts, Tangel practically screams through the chat, demanding to know how he scored that premium gear. Our boy casually mentions he simply deleted a red-named player and stole his clothes. Tangao was knocked back by the very act of questioning reality when a grin spread across his face, and he declared that feeling this revenge so incredibly satisfying that he wouldn't even care if he died now. A boy tells his friend to hold on to the feeling of losing a friend, and he promises to find other people who feel this way too. The scene jumps into view as a group of bright, radiant fireflies gather together in an army of 5 men and their fiery companions. The screen in the corner screamed that a powerful name, named Yang Kong, was truly gone. The squad was completely stunned and couldn't stop shouting about how the boss's last boss had the highest possible server spell damage. A loud voice pointed towards something terrible as someone watched Yang Kong's full gold collection fall into the mud. The rogue guildmaster threw a huge tantrum over the raid, turning his face into a wall of smoke and shouting that 3 thugs had vanished from the city before he even finished speaking. The squad's collective brain cells actually misfired, but the leader insists that Yang Kong has found Nirvana Flame, the true assassin, and warns them to hunt down that enemy with a 5 silver coin bounty while ensuring they team up with 3 others for the kill. The lone boy in the squad was hiding inside the trees, whispering to himself that stealing from them was just a low-level act of greed. He didn't care about his own money. He focused entirely on making sure these bullies knew exactly how to push one player too far and what would happen next. Suddenly, the huge boss monster zipped into the room while his antler deer leader held up his hand to show off 2,000 lives he was about to lose. He changed his mind instantly because he couldn't find any real monsters to hunt anyway. So instead of waiting for them, he decided to just take down the biggest beast on the map to get some extra money before it was gone. From the shadows, our boy suddenly understood that watching him was the best way to get away from everything else. 3 raw-featured guys sprinted straight at a gentle deer, ignoring their tired backsides while 2 light mages stayed far behind, puffing up like they were ready to burn through the boss in under 30 seconds. Our brave boy burst through the door instantly, and they scream in awe as he suddenly appears on top of them. The first wizard hits him with absolute power and stops the second one from signing up for anything at all until he drinks that one last pill of healing water. The soul standing in a sea of confusion blinked, unsure if its power had fled, until it suddenly knew it was staring straight at the newest sleep paralysis demon that spawned on the server. The priest, panicking, slammed his hands down and fired that holy judgment spell right at our boy's face. The guild leader watched as the massive magical explosions behind him vanished into darkness, leaving a terrifying silence over the front lines. As he spun his body to face the darkness, the attackers caught sight of that intense, pulsing holy glow and froze, staring in stunned awe at the man who had just been slitting their throats with a blade they couldn't even hold. The leader was trapped inside the deadly circle of the rogue assassin and the angry deer boss as they both fired their weapons at him. Yet he kept his breath held in his chest to make a final desperate plea before disappearing into the shadows. The soldiers march right into the woods and demand that everyone on the front line shoot every single deer straight at the boss, insisting that killing it is a prerequisite for any success before they even think about catching the thief. NGT. Hope you enjoyed the recap. If you did, drop a like and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Even when my shadow